means truth. So tell me about your spiritual journey.
Hey guys, what's going on? This is Tattva Tuesday. I'm Lindsay Warwick, the conduit on Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. This is the spiritual interview series where we're talking about our spiritual journey and conception of God, source, all that is, whatever you call it. And I am so excited. I have my friend Jessica on the podcast today. Hello, my friend.
I am so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here. We were chatting a bit before we, hit the record button, and I have known Jess for, I don't even know, since 2009.
A long time,
I'd say around there.
Probably about that long.
That's a long time, everybody. And we have seen each other in a lot of different capacities. And we still, it's like every time we talk, it's no time has passed. It feels so safe. I love our friendship. I love you. And I'm just so grateful that you agreed to come on here and talk about your story and your experiences.
Thank you. Yeah, it's our friendship feels like home. It really does. Like every single time we talk, it just feels very familiar.
Mm-hmm. Capricorn sisters. Oh, very close birthdays to Christmas. Well, your birthday is Christmas.
On Christmas.
Like, happy birthday to you and Jesus.
That's right. Jessus. That's how we
Jessus. Love it. That's so great. Whew. Where should we start today? I mean, we can start with your spiritual journey and just see what comes through.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's a long one.
Just a light question. Just nutshell.
I know. But I feel like that's like the root of a lot of my friendships is usually like the close friendships are the ones where you just like jump right into the deep end right away. You're just like,
me too.
I'm just gonna jump in head first. Why not? I feel like a lot of us can probably relate to feeling a little different, like right out the gate. Yeah, right. I imagine that. I always felt like I had this like just depth and different way of thinking. Like I the way I've always described it is I always felt like I had this older voice in my head. Like I heard like today's voice in my head. And then when I spoke, I had this like very young voice that would come out, and it was very confusing to me as a young child. And eventually you mature into what you hear. And a lot of that, I who knows what that really is, but that maturity maybe wasn't maturity, I don't know, but I struggled a lot as a child. I had some challenging experiences as a child, and I acted out a lot as a kid. And as a teenager, struggled a lot. And it eventually, through some challenging experiences with, I don't know how deep we really want to go into all of that, but
go ahead, whatever you want.
I mean, really, I think a lot of the things that we do as kids, just experimenting with drugs and alcohol, being in places that I didn't belong in, eventually landed me in a community where I had a little bit more safety, and I was able to start exploring a safer way of being. And I was able to start experiencing a little bit more responsibility for myself, right? In a more structured way than I certainly would have as a 16-year-old girl at the time. But it really opened a door for me to start being, it started out as more of like a responsibility instead of spirituality. And when it became a spiritual conversation, it was more structured. but it opened the door. It cracked the door open for me to start really thinking about what is God's self to me? What is beingness, isness to me? And as I matured and aged in years, I started kind of having that conversation with me and developed a curiosity and kind of carried that throughout into my young adulthood and started meeting more people like me, meeting more Lindsays in my life and developing a lot of really close friendships and carrying that through my life. And that always seemed to like start with some sort of challenging experience. So I think around the time that we met, I was like meeting and falling in love with my first husband.
I was gonna say you were married.
Was I married? No, I we were dating then. If we met in
Oh,
2009, we were dating.
okay.
Yeah, we were dating.
Wow.
And so I was head over heels in love. Wonderful, wonderful man. Um, to this day, I'm still certain that's true. And uh we eventually ended up getting divorced, and that's when you and I became really close. And I just like didn't know who I was anymore. Uh, it's a big like de-identifier to go through that experience. And there was no like he didn't do anything wrong. We just weren't right for each other. Um,
Yeah.
and I remember sitting in my bedroom, the bedroom where we had like quite an epic that apartment, we had quite an epic spiritual experience,
And
which we
we're gonna talk about
yes,
it
we will talk
because
about that.
I have
It was
alluded to that experience on my podcast, but here we are with the girl who was there experiencing it with me.
oh my
So
gosh,
we'll get to that
in like mere minutes. But I remember sitting,
very soon.
it was insane. I remember sitting in my bedroom there and thinking like, I have no idea who I am and feeling so like, in a sense, so clear in who I was, and in another sense, so unsure if I was ever going to be able to realize that truth in this
Mhm.
lifetime. And I started like meditating every single day, multiple times a day, consistently. I started praying, not necessarily because I believe in a God that people stereotypically pray to, but because I needed some sort of consistent practice. We did the shamanic healing training together. I did Reiki certification. You gave me a Reiki session, and that's how I was
Yeah.
introduced to it. And I became curious about Reiki because in my meditations, I started feeling this intense energy in my hands and my feet. And I was like, what is this? And I kept Googling it. And Dr. Google told me that
Love you.
to look up Reiki. I'd never heard of it before.
You're like,
I had
hey,
no
oh,
idea.
I can't say hey Google because my Google will talk to
Oh,
me. But it's like literally like, hey, what's going on with my hands?
yeah. I was like, why are my hands tingling every time I meditate? And that's also when I decided to like become a yoga teacher because I was sitting in meditation. And then all of a sudden I was like, I need to get up and move. And I wanted to like shake my body. And of course, we all know that yoga isn't just asana, like that's one limb of the yoga practice, but
Hmm.
it's the one that we know the most. And so my meditation became a moving meditation. And then I wanted to do yoga and I was already meditating. And then I grew towards Reiki. And then I did the Reiki certification. And then you and I started spending more time together. And you were living in New Jersey at the time.
I
And I'm starting
know.
driving back and forth between New Jersey. And then you, me, and Alana,
Yeah,
do
Elena,
the shamanic healing training together,
candle healing.
whew, which was quite moving. And it was
This is
very
the moment. This is the
right.
moment.
I honestly I don't remember all that much about the actual training.
I don't remember the actual training. I remember that Robin and the other woman her name escapes me.
She was
They
amazing.
Yes, they're both amazing. Robin has been on the podcast and I check in with him from time to time. He's awesome. They both did a healing on me. And then we went, what's your perspective of the story? Because mine is like
Well, first, let me tell you what
I
happened.
never ate at that food place ever again, by the way.
Oh my God. I don't even remember where that was, but Elena and I were fine from that food place. Well, first off, before
It
we left,
wasn't the food.
it was not the food. Because I think we all like shared meals. Like,
We
I
did
don't,
it.
yeah.
It wasn't
Before
the food.
yeah, before we left the shamanic healing like space where we were, I don't remember her name either. Let's just call her Mary so she has a name. I feel like that's a good name for her.
Yeah, that's a great name for
Yeah,
her. I feel like it started with an S though.
I know. I don't
Anyways, we'll just call her Mary.
Mary. We're dubbing her Mary.
Sorry.
Um, she came up to me. I asked her if I don't remember what I asked her, something along the lines of, "Can you sense anything within me?" And she put her hand on my chest and then closed her eyes. And then she puts her hand on my back between my shoulder blades. And she was like, "You have something attached to you here." And I remember being like, I have felt that for years. And that became
Mm.
my, work over the next couple of years. That blew my mind. And then you had your healing session, and Elena and I, after a while, we're just like, oh my God, why is this taking so long? I am ready to go home. I am hungry. We have a long drive home. Like, we're getting a little frustrated. Like, why is this taking so long? And then
Mhm.
you come out, you're just like starry eyed, like, oh, wow, that was amazing. Like on another universe.
Yeah, literally on another planet. They were
Yeah.
doing like they removed energy like attachments and all of that stuff that now I understand we accumulate as we, have experiences.
Mhm. And then we
Yeah.
go to a food place, we
It
drive
was
home.
like a bowl, like a what was it called? Because we joked about it for a while. I was like, oh, I'm never eating that again. But yeah, so we went and we got food.
And then we drove home. And I
Yes.
think by the time we got home, you're like, I feel a little weird, but you're still like,
Me, I'm
happy,
still like, ba,
a
ba,
little weird.
ba.
And we
Yeah,
go to my one bedroom apartment
right.
in Brewers Hill, Baltimore, Maryland.
Bless
And
Baltimore.
yes, I'm
Mhm.
in Hampton right now in Baltimore, Maryland. And you're like,
I went to bed in the living room.
is wrong. Well, you were going to sleep in my bedroom with me, but I had a
Yes.
very, very tall bed. And you were like, I know I'm going to get sick. And I was like, Lindsay, I love you, but this tiny little, um, oh, wait, we need to rewind for a second because Robin and blessed be Mary, whose name we can't
Bless
remember.
her. Bless her.
One of the things that they told us to do to get rid of negative energy was like to channel the energy into like an egg, or this sounds so wild, um, and then flush it, right? And so we tried to do that, remember, but the egg got
Mhm.
stuck and it clogged my only toilet. And we have
Fuck.
you who's sick.
Yeah. Oh my God.
The toilet didn't work.
But I
So,
remember intuitively, like, I was like, I can't sleep in your room. I was just like, I
oh,
cannot be in your room. And I couldn't be with Elena either. I was like, I need to be out there alone. That's
oh,
how I
interesting.
remember it. Maybe I didn't vocalize that, but I
Maybe you
remember
didn't.
feeling that in my being. And then
Well, because
I
what I said was, I can't have you vomiting from my like 5 foot tall bed because it's not going to go in the pot. Like it's just not like I
I
can't.
posted up in your living room with a bucket and tried to fall asleep. And then I woke up at around 3 o'clock in the morning and I was violently like throwing up, crying. And I got on my knees and I literally asked God and Jesus for help because I was in so much pain. And it was beyond my understanding of what was actually happening at the time. But I do remember your toilet being clogged and me being like, fuck, like, what is happening? And it was so overwhelming. But the wildest part of it was the next day when your friend called, right?
Hold on, are we talking about the plumber?
What? I don't remember the plumber.
Okay, what
We're
friend are
talking
you
about
talking
your
about?
friend who had the vision of what was happening in your living room.
Wait, I don't even remember this. Remind me.
What? Your friend who channeled and works with Jesus reached out to you and asked you if there was a woman staying in your apartment and you
Oh
said
my
yes.
gosh.
You
Wow.
don't remember that?
No.
Wow, I remember that because you put him on speakerphone because he shared at around three
Oh,
o'clock
that's
in the
right.
morning.
That's
Around
right. Oh my
yes,
gosh. I just heard from him recently.
is his what's his name?
Ryan.
Yes,
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
You put him on speakerphone because I'm like, what did he see? He's like, I have to tell you what I saw. And he said that around 3 o'clock in the morning, he had a vision that
I
there
totally
was a
forgot about this.
woman in your living room and there were hundreds of demons trying to get into me. But Jesus,
Oh,
yes, Jesus descended on your apartment and 1,000 angels as well. And he said that Jesus took my hand and told me that I could make the choice and I would be loved either way. And I really, I just got chills. I really believe that that's when I got on my knees and I asked God for help. And at that point, I was struggling with, do I drink alcohol or not? And that, that was a big thing for me. And also just that healing was next level. But what did the plumber say? Because I
oh,
don't remember that. I remember.
well, well, that's a funny part. Let's lean into the Brian part for a moment. Brian is a really, really special person. And I kind of lost touch with him. Like there was a little bit like his interest extended beyond my interest in that relationship. And so we ended up losing touch, but he was a really, really special person, really, really deeply in touch, obviously.
Yeah,
I remember that now that you're sharing that conversation, I remember it.
it's like burned in my brain.
Yeah, well, it was meant for you, not for me, you
Yeah,
know? Oh, of
yeah.
course you remember it. And I heard from him recently, and he was simply reaching out to me to say, hello. And uh, I was thinking about you recently, and I wanted to tell you just how um, special you were in my life and how impactful you were in my life at that point. And I really hope you're doing really well.
So
And I remember
nice.
I felt compelled to tell him about my brother, but I didn't because, which is we can talk about that in a moment, but I didn't because that conversation is such a heavy one and it's a weird one to just bring up in the spur of the moment. But maybe I need
I feel
to.
like he has the
Totally,
capacity though to
he
handle
totally
it.
does. Yeah, he
Oh,
totally does.
hey, we're
I
saying
know,
hi
what
to
a sweet
you.
man.
Thank you for that message, sir. That was a very profound moment in my spiritual journey. And it's so interesting how, of course, I remember it because it was for me,
I
but I
know it
don't
was.
remember the plumber.
Okay, the plumber was a friend because, of course, I needed the toilet fixed, and I didn't want to call my landlord and be like, "So I flushed a whole egg down my toilet, and now it's clogged. Can
Like,
you help?"
what the fuck are you doing over there? Yeses, Jesses.
Instead, I called a friend who's a plumber and said, "So I flushed a whole egg down my toilet, and now it's clogged. Can you help?" And he comes over with like this plumber professional level.
Was I there?
Yes, you were there.
I don't remember
And you
this.
also remember Elena had just finished living in Costa Rica, like in like a very remote part of Costa Rica. So she'd already like rolled up her sleeve and shoved her arm
Oh
in
yeah, I do remember that.
to
I
get the egg
remember
out
her doing
after
that.
like things had happened in the toilet. I was like, God bless you, woman. Like I
Oh yeah, she was like, I got this.
and and she was not successful. But
No.
Mike came over and he fixed the problem. And I was like, so Mike, out of all the weird things you've seen in your time as a plumber, where does that fall? And he's like, I put that in top three. And I think we gave him breakfast and I offered to pay him. And he was like, no, thank you. And he went on his way.
Wow. That was a moment. That was such a moment.
Lena also took, because I have like this vomit phobia.
Oh yeah, you had the vomit phobia.
Yes, I have gotten a lot better over the years.
Oh my God, I'm proud of
But
you.
but she just mama beared me and she took the pot
I'm like
and
throwing up in your living room. Elena's taking
you
care
know
of you.
it's so interesting because we were both totally asleep. Neither of us heard you getting sick at all, which also like contributes to this because you're saying you were violently, violently
It
ill,
was
which
very
means it
bad.
must
I
have
was
been
like
really loud,
crying and
And I have no,
I was purging. Now
yeah,
in the terms that I know and understand, I was certainly purging things
yeah.
that did
And
not
like,
belong in my system anymore.
right. And like the bed that we were sleeping in, it was bed, wall, sofa. Like
Yeah.
it was the bed and the sofa were
I was
sandwiched
on the floor a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I was like on my knees and
like that.
yeah, wild.
Um, but yeah, Elena like poured your vomit into a bag and tied it up and took it into the trash and thoroughly cleaned my pot for me. She was very sweet. And that is the story of when you were touched by Jesus, quite literally.
Literally, I will never forget that. And it was at your apartment in
It
Baltimore.
was. That's sweet, sweet apart. I actually had to talk to that landlord recently because I accidentally had something shipped there. How that is even possible? Because I've lived in a couple places since, I don't know. But she was like, "Of course I remember you. You were so sweet. Let me contact who's living there now." She was just the sweetest woman.
Wow. What an experience that was.
It really was.
Let's pivot.
That's hard.
Hard pivot, but honestly, that was one of the times that I've seen Jesus, which has been very profound. And
Oh,
I'm in this era of deeply connecting back to Christ consciousness. So it's not a coincidence that we are here together and you share a birthday with him.
I was gonna say, there's also like my funny joke about Jesus is we haven't pivoted yet. We're coming back for a moment. It's my husband's family is incredible. And his aunt and uncle are like, if you ever wanted to like meet what you want Christians to be, it is them. They're incredible people.
Hmm.
And a couple of years ago for my birthday, which is on Christmas Day, they bought a happy birthday balloon and then they bought like sticker letters to put on the bottom. It says the balloon just said happy birthday. And then they bought letters to spell out Jesus. Now remember my name's Jessica or Jess. And then they got a Sharpie and they crossed out the U so that it spelled Jess. Oh my gosh, it was like one of my favorite birthday gifts. But there is still like between you and I, you have this like undeniable connection to Jesus energy. And I was also born on. Now we know that Jesus Christ was not actually born on December 25th, but still this day that has been intangibly connected to Jesus Christ. So there are so many different connections also just throughout the history of our friendship, how we were connected, why we were connected, how we've come back to each other so many times that have connected us.
I
Through,
know. It's so awesome. Soul family. There's no other way to describe it. You're one of my people.
yeah, the
And when
importance of
I get
community.
those moments, or I'll hear your name, honestly. And I believe it's my guides or Archangel Michael or the angels, Jesus, or it's just me that when I hear somebody's name, or I just have to check on them. That's just how I am. And then oftentimes people will say, "How did you know?" I don't know. I just listen.
Yeah. Well, that's how you know. You just listen. I mean, energy is not something, it's something that I do believe that anybody can pick up on. It's just
Oh yeah,
it's not even
definitely.
necessary. Like I think I often talk about energy as something that like how attuned we are to it or how, but it's also like how much do you listen? Like how much time have you spent? Even like before we started recording, you were talking about one of your dogs, like you got excited and then your dog started barking.
Yeah.
And that happens, but like if we don't spend any time like connecting with our pets, connecting with our loved ones, our past loved ones, our alive loved ones in that way, then that connection might not exist. But if we do spend time like attuning and tending to that energy, then that connection will exist. It's there for everyone. It's just how much do you tend to that connection?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you said that. It's great. And I am grateful for our evolving friendship.
Hmm.
It's great.
I agree.
Well, let's pivot from the apartment ordeal
Hmm.
and talk about some of the other things that have been happening, have happened. You want to share them?
Yeah. So this is a um, content warning for people who are listening, a heavy conversation that involves suicide. So yeah, I would say, I mentioned a couple minutes ago the word community, and in light of you, like community is just so important, and it has been like what has kept me, I don't want to say it's what's kept me alive because that's not true. Like I have kept me alive, like
Hmm.
um, and of course my community has, but my life was never in question um in this last year and a half. But on July 18th of 2023, I lost my brother by his own hand. His name is Jeff. We struggled with him for a long time. I mean, really, like you can look back to like pictures of him as a child and like see that he was experiencing life differently than I experienced life. And, to keep a story that could be extremely long a little bit shorter, um, he struggled pretty mightily with depression and addiction. And I say depression first before addiction because he struggled with that first. And that journey looked like, I think we've all kind of, whether we realize it or not, we've watched someone, we've at least watched someone struggle with depression. And it's easy to say someone's sad. It's harder when you see someone so sad and that word feels small for what depression really can morph into, that they're not capable of paying their bills. They're not capable of making good food for themselves. They're not capable they lose the ability to clean their home. They lose the ability to do their laundry and to like not pull up their I mean, like Jeff's shirts were like stretched out. My husband is a very talented artist, and he designs shirts, and I have a lot of shirts that we gifted to Jeff. And like I remember when my mother and I flew out to California to collect Jeff's things after he took his life, and I laid a shirt that I had gifted to Jeff with, I just had happened to bring the identical shirt that my husband had designed next to it on the bed. And, they were the same, they were printed in the same batch, so they weren't any older. And even if Jeff had washed his 50 times more, it was so faded and so stretched. And that's just a sign when you're just sitting there, like yanking at your clothes because you're so uncomfortable. And if you
Hmm.
can really get yourself into like to feel what that feels like for someone living in that place of like what it feels like to feel like you need to do that. And
Hmm.
that's such a small example, but like if that's the way you feel, just the way you treat your clothes, how must you treat your body? How must you walk through the world in general? And he was addicted to a substance called kratom.
Oh,
It's legal,
kratom.
fortunately. Yeah,
Oh,
I've
wow.
pronounced it
Yeah,
kratom. Yeah. Um,
I've heard about that.
Yeah, my understanding is it's an opioid and it functions similar to heroin. It's like it's much safer to detox off of, but it doesn't feel safer to detox.
Hmm.
Like safer meaning you won't die from detoxing off of it, but like it feels like you will. And he had detoxed off of it several times. And we did a lot of rescuing. Eventually we boundaried ourselves up because anyone who has experience with loving someone with um addiction,
Addiction.
um you can't just continue to rescue them because when people don't face consequences, they often don't get well, or they don't have the opportunity if there are no consequences. And to save the whole back and forth, he eventually had to face some consequences, some pretty hefty consequences, and found his way home from um back and forth between California and Vegas and Texas back to Maryland. And he got sober for about a year and a half. He was living in a halfway house. He wasn't super happy, but happiness takes time when you've been abusing your body like that for a long time.
Yeah, and also when you are in addictive patterning or
Yeah.
alcoholic patterning, your neural pathways are
Right.
completely different. And so it does take time to rebuild them.
Yeah. Right. And, we also, like many people who rely on something outside of ourselves for happiness,
Yeah.
and I'm just using a collective um, we do it for immediate gratification. And then like when you take it away, you want to feel better immediately.
Well, yeah,
And
because it's like that vacuum effect.
Yeah. And it
Good.
doesn't happen that way. And it's why it's so hard to give up bad patterns. I mean, even if you make the bad pattern, like eating too much, like eating like a pound of chocolate every night, and it's like, let's just take something that's so weird that most people wouldn't do it, like eating so much chocolate that you throw up every night. Like most people would not do that. They wouldn't eat
Mhm.
so much chocolate that they force themselves, like it's to the point where they're sick physically. Like it's just it's kind of it's a vicious cycle and it's hard to get out of.
Mhm.
So he moved back to California. Um, he stayed sober for 3 weeks. At some point in there, he lost his sobriety and he took his own life. And when my parents came over to tell me that, my whole life changed. A part of me died that day. And um, and that is okay. That was his choice. It was not my choice. There is nothing I can do to change that. There is nothing I did to cause it. There is nothing I can do to take it back. This is my life, and there's nothing I can do to change that. And I've had many, many moments where I wish that I could. Trust me, I wish that I could have my brother back, but that's not an option that was given to me. So, um, Lindsay and I were talking, we were talking before this about I definitely entered into some self-destructive patterning. I started drinking more. I gained weight. I did a lot of turning inward, like a lot of, and I'm doing this action intentionally because I spent a lot of time on the sofa like this, crying and like missing Jeff and just like asking for signs and asking for him. And I did get a lot of signs and he did show up for me, and I'm very thankful for that. Actually, one of the most powerful signs that I got was when my mom and I went out to California to clean up, donate his things and take care of everything. We went on the beach and we took a bottle of whiskey because that was one of his favorite. We took all of his favorite foods and drinks. And we went on the beach, we spread his ashes, and we buried his favorite foods, which was so silly. It was like tortilla chips and apples. And we buried them
I
with
love
like poured the whiskey in the sand. And then I walked out to the water by myself
it.
to dump the rest of the ashes. And I poured them, but they're very, very heavy, and the water did not take them away. And they're dark, so I could see them like against the sand. So I waited for a wave to come and take them. And you live by the water, like it takes
Yeah.
a couple waves for the next big one to come and take it. And I
Hmm.
was waiting, and if I knew that I could find the photo in time to get to this part of the story, I would pull it up to say what it said, but I know I won't. Um, as the next wave came, I looked out and a sea lion pops its head up and he looked towards me, literally turns his head and looks towards me and turned back and went back under the water. And then the wave came and took Jeff's ashes away. And as I'm walking back up the beach towards my mom, I'm Googling spiritual meaning of the sea
Yeah,
lion.
of
It
course.
looks
I was
like
gonna say,
the
what was
power of transformation.
yeah, that's
Jeff was
beautiful.
transforming from physical to spiritual.
Yeah, definitely. I love that. I
And
got
since
chills. I
then, yeah,
got chills when you said that it looked at you and then
yeah,
went back into the water.
yeah.
It's so beautiful.
Yeah, and we've gotten a lot of signs.
Good. Yeah, I love to hear about that. The sign.
Um, well, and since then we've spread his ashes in a lot of places. I spread his ashes 60 feet underwater in Honduras.
Okay.
His ashes a lot of places in Maryland. I've spread his ashes with friends in St. John. It's been really nice. But either way, like the thing that has rung true is the power of community. A community of people who are grieving as well, a community of people who don't understand at all but are there for you anyway. A community of people who are like, I see that you're doing things that are not necessarily serving you, and I get that you're in it right now and that you're aware of these things.
And you're
And
being loved
then,
anyway.
yeah, sometimes life is not, it's not always linear. The path to transformation is not always linear, and the last year and a half has not been linear. It's not been fucking linear.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear that. And I'm so glad that you know, have come to another, I wouldn't say to the other side of it, because that doesn't exist when we lose people that we love,
Yeah.
but you are in a new place with it where you can open up again, not, you
Hmm.
know, your heart is a little bit more open. And I think it's so valuable that you shared that you understand that it wasn't your fault and it had nothing to do with you. I think that that is a really beautiful realization for your
Hmm.
healing. And I'm I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
And I am in awe of your vulnerability to share that, especially on a podcast.
Thank you. Well, it's definitely this is the probably the biggest platform I've talked about it this openly. And I appreciate you giving me the chance to do it.
Anytime,
Uh,
anytime.
when Jeff was alive, we didn't talk about his struggles because it was his story and he got to choose if he talked about it. But he's not here any longer. And I suffered from keeping it close to my chest. Um, and so now it's my story to tell, you know? And if in telling this story, one person reaches out to a friend and checks on them once, and it makes a difference in that person's life. If one person is struggling and reaches out and gets help. If one person's life is impacted positively because they hear Jeff's story, amazing. We had Jeff's celebration of life at my house, and he loves sunflowers, so we filled my house with sunflowers. And afterwards, I had written a eulogy for him, and I on very colorful paper because he loved color, and I tied his eulogy to each sunflower, and I put them in front of my house for people to take. And I included a QR code to his writing because he was a very talented writer. And they went, and then people started posting them on like Facebook on our neighborhood social media page, and it was really amazing to like see people appreciating these and saying this was what I needed on my Sunday morning and things like that. It was really incredible.
I love that. And I would love to read some of his writing
Yeah.
also. That
I'll
is,
share the Google Drive with you.
yeah, share it. That's so beautiful. And from what I've seen and I understand is that now you're involved with a nonprofit.
Hmm. Yeah, so about 9 months ago, I posted again, good old, I know, we Facebook has there are lots of opinions about Facebook, especially recently. Uh,
Hmm.
it has been a place where I have gotten to grieve, and I am appreciative for that. I posted in a local neighborhood group there about 9 months ago saying, like, my body has gone through so many transitions since I lost my brother. I really need, and I'm a yoga teacher. I've been teaching yoga for about a decade now, but the yoga community never really recovered in Maryland after COVID. I don't know what it's
Oh,
like.
really? It's different
Yeah,
there.
it's very
Interesting.
different. I mean, there are new yoga communities, but the community part is a hard thing to find.
Hmm.
It's just not the same as it used to be. And there is a CrossFit gym owner here who reached out to me. Several people reached out to me. But he and I ended up connecting. He lost his wife to cancer 3 years ago. And he was like, you know what? Like, even if CrossFit isn't your thing, let's just get together and talk about grief. So we did. We met at one of his CrossFit gyms and we just talked about his wife and my brother. And he was like, let me just set you up with a free membership. And if you want to come, you can come. If you don't want to come, you don't want to come, but let's keep getting together. And he ended up acquiring a gym that has a nonprofit already attached to it called Community of Strength.
Hmm.
And the nonprofit currently serves inner city, Baltimore City school kids, and it gives them the opportunity to attend fitness classes for free. And just like any big city, Baltimore City has, it's a demographic where there are a lot of school kids who go without a lot of things. And so this gives a lot of kids a safe place to be after school where they might
I
not
love
have
that.
safety. Yeah.
That's really
Um,
nice.
It is. It gives them something healthy to do with their bodies. And then there's a lot of science and I personally am pretty enamored with the connection between spirit and science and
Me too.
how, how like our nervous systems respond to
Amazing.
yoga, to breath work, to meditation, to receiving a Reiki healing, to all of these things, and how like that can be science backed, and it can obviously also be backed by spiritual principles. Um, and so there's a lot of science behind like endorphin release and the healing and like the healing that is supported by that and just trauma theory
Mhm.
surround. And so that's what it is now. And our hope is to grow that into something bigger. And we just held our first good grief group on Sunday.
I
As
love that. The
it was
timing is so divine. And I'm sorry I keep looking to the side. There is a beautiful bird just chilling on my patio as you're talking
there
about all
is.
this. And I literally feel like it's your brother.
Oh, what does it look like?
Well, it just flew away now, but it had like a reddish orange chest and it was brown. Um, and it was so cute. I love birds also, but
I asked what it looked like because orange is my brother's color, our color. Orange and turquoise are the two colors for my
it
brother.
had an orange chest.
Hi, Jeff.
Hey. Yeah, because you were talking about it and it was just, did you see me? I was like,
I did see you.
right
I
there
did see
on
you.
the post. Yeah, it's awesome.
You know what's also crazy about
When
that?
you were talking about spreading his ashes everywhere, I heard like, now I get to travel. He's,
That's what we always say.
oh, well, that's what I
Jeff
heard.
is
And I'm
talking
like,
to you.
don't say that out on the podcast, but I'm just
No, Jeff is
my
talking
weird,
to you.
yes, that's what
He
I heard.
always
Like,
wanted to
now I get to
travel.
travel. Like,
Okay,
he's
I
like,
think we're
I'm
supposed
going
to
to
go
all these
back.
places.
I think we're supposed to go back to signs for two different reasons. One, that's what we always say. Jeff never got to travel and he always wanted to, and that's why I take his ashes everywhere I go. I'm
Well,
going to Curacao
I
next month.
literally heard that. Now I get to travel. And then the bird was here.
Second thing about the bird, Lindsay, you just created a full circle moment for me. So I have a window in front of me here. Like this is I'm just sitting in my
I'm gonna
office space.
cry.
You might, maybe.
Okay.
Last week, I was sitting here. So I haven't like felt my brother's presence as much lately. Like we also lost our cat a couple months ago. And
Oh,
I know, sweet boy, but the way he
boy.
went was so peaceful. And
Hmm.
I just remember my husband and I were like, he knew that we were going to be okay. He went in such a peaceful way. There was no suffering. We spent the whole night with him. I
Oh.
was like, he knew we were going to be okay. But like, of course, my energy has been with him a little bit more.
Hmm.
So I was looking out this window that's in front of me right now, and I was like, Jeff, I would love to see sign of you as a bird in front of one of the trees in front of me. And I never saw it, and it made me a little sad, but I think he just gave you my sign.
I mean, yeah, the bird was right there. You saw me. I was like,
I did see you. I knew I had a feeling because I saw your story earlier today of you bird watching and listening to beautiful music with your dog
it was
that
so
I had a feeling that's you were looking outside.
I was. Yeah, my patio is
Yeah.
like right here. And it had an orange chest. And I almost thought of like, is it an Oriole? Like, but I don't know. I don't know. It definitely had an orange chest though.
Mm, thanks,
So
Jeff.
yeah. And
Yeah,
I
we, of
heard the traveling comment when you were talking. I'm
course
gonna
you
just
did.
I'm letting my mediumship, my weird, it is who I am. So yeah,
Glad you
that's
are because you're giving me gifts and letting it shine.
you are giving the gift of vulnerability and telling your story.
You.
And we should always, I love your depth and your level of compassion.
Thank
It's
you.
really beautiful. And yeah, sorry to interrupt about the
No,
flow of the nonprofit, but there was a bird here.
I want to tell you another cool sign we got. And it's all,
Okay.
and I think this is another good story that shows how grief and presence and hope and curiosity can all be the same thing.
Mhm.
So a week before my brother's life celebration, my parents' dog died suddenly. And
Mm.
it's very sad. He was older, like he'd had like little lumps showing up on his body for a couple of years, and something happened and he was just like that. He was paralyzed from the waist down. He was in
Oh,
pain for just a couple of hours his whole life, and then he was gone. So it was very sad, but it was also like he lived again an incredible life. And my parents called me. They were like, "You don't he's not gonna like you, there's not time for you to come be with him. Do you want us to FaceTime you?" And I was like, absolutely not. Like thinking of my 70 and 80-year-old parents trying to figure out FaceTime while they're putting their dog down. I was like,
yeah.
I mean, I was laughing at the time, but I was like, no,
Yeah.
be with your dog. I love you. I love you. Goodbye.
Mhm.
And I'm like, it's been 3 months since Jeff died. I throw my phone on the background and I'm like, when do I get a break out loud? I was just so mad. Like, and I just felt a little surge of that anger. I'm sure you could hear it. Like, I was so mad.
Yeah.
And Devin comes over and he hugs me. He holds me
Oh.
in my bedroom and he's looking out the window. And all of a sudden he goes, "Oh my God." And at first I'm like, kind of mad. I'm like, "Please be with me right now." And I'm like, "What?" And he's like, "There's a hawk outside the window."
Ooh. I've been
And
seeing hawks a lot lately too.
yeah,
Hmm.
I mean,
My
this
friend
was
sent me a
October.
picture of one this morning that she was seeing.
I mean,
Wow,
yeah,
that's amazing.
this was October 2023. And we were like, I was just instantly like, I think that's Jeff bringing Spinner home, my parents' dog. I was like, I think
Oh,
it's Jeff being like, "Come to me, like you're mine now." It was so sweet. And it
oh.
meant so much. Because I mean, it was the first loss after Jeff that we had had. And like, you hear something like that, and it's so easy to be like, "Oh my God, can't they get a break?" And I'm not going to
Mhm.
say that we didn't feel that way, but also like, if you just keep your eyes open and you see those signs,
Mhm.
he was right there with us, you know?
Yeah, that's really beautiful. And yeah, I love that you said that too. Like if you keep your eyes open and your heart open to
Yeah, for
these,
sure.
even
Definitely more heart than eyes.
even in the pain, there is beauty and God, and this is a quote that will never leave me, and I know you're aware of it, but God is everything or nothing.
Yeah,
And it's still like how I view my life is God is everything, even in the most painful moments. If we can just keep our heart a little bit open and our eyes a little bit open, then we can see the
yeah,
signs.
yeah,
That's really beautiful because I feel like those were moments where you really needed the comfort and it was there.
yeah. Well, and even like taking the science conversation back to community of strength, like I
Yeah.
had no idea that that message I sent on a silly Facebook group was going to lead me to
But
this
you followed
nonprofit.
your
I
intuition,
did. And
the
like,
knowing of I should send this
yeah,
message and look at what it's blossomed from that.
absolutely. And like this first good grief group was incredible. Like we showed up to this
Yeah,
space and there were
I
some of
saw
my
your
people there.
post.
I know, and some of Kevin's people there, like the person that I'm co-leading this with, and then some people who neither of us knew who just saw a post about the Good Grief group in like the ether of Facebook. And
Yeah.
and then we ended it with an exercise and then some intentional breath work where people could endorphin release and then nervous system heal. And it was incredible. And it just lifted me up so much. And what was so powerful to me is that, Kevin and I weren't trying to pretend that we have our shit together because we don't. I'm a year and a half out from my grief, my loss. He's 3 years out from his loss. Like, we're grievers supporting grievers. We are grieving too. We need to share there too. We need to cry there too. Um,
Hmm.
like, we need to be supported in that space as well. And I think that's a powerful like space to create. And then the addition of moving our bodies to let that
Yeah.
build up have a place to go. And we're not walking out of the space with that buildup still in us. I'm really excited to see what it becomes. Who knows exactly what it'll be, but I feel really, really good about it and really positive about it. And regardless of what it is, the cool thing is it's a service no matter who it's a service to, you know?
Yeah. And I was thinking as you're talking that isn't that kind of the point of life?
Yeah.
And what I'm saying, okay, bear with me. Big picture, trying to English, is that we go through these horrible, hard things. But the point of life to me is we take those experiences that we have and help the rest of us.
Yeah.
Help the rest of us going through those things. To me, being of service to humanity is everything. Being of
Mhm.
service to other people is literally the point of life, I
Yeah.
think, to find
Yeah.
your exactly. So you just sharing that, it's like it's a full I see it as a full circle moment for you. And it's so beautiful that you don't, who knows what's going to come from this. And who knows, sometimes we don't know why these horrible things happen and we'll never get the answers that we think we want. But look what comes from it if we just keep our hearts open.
Yeah.
But it's
Yeah.
amazing.
100%.
It's
Yeah.
amazing what you're doing. And it's amazing that you shared that you went through, you had to go through it. You had to feel it and go through it. And thank you for mentioning moving the physical body aspect of transmuting grief or any type of traumatic energy. This is what I see a lot when I work with Reiki clients or spiritual healing clients that, and you know this as a yoga teacher and the wonderful healer and person that you are, that we have to move the energy, we have to move the body because it'll get stuck if
Hmm.
we don't. I use a glow stick as an analogy. Like we have to crack ourselves a little bit to get the
Yeah.
light to flow through.
Yeah.
So that is so important for, when people are feeling really low and sad, like or depression or grief, it's so important. Like, even if you don't feel it, like move a little bit, like maybe a little bit of yin, or just walk a little bit to just move that
Yes.
stuck,
Absolutely.
stagnant energy. It's like bring the body and the mind will follow.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And then there's also this really interesting, I don't even know if you can consider it a theory so much as it's just fact, where like animals have a heightened ability to literally physically shake off
Yeah.
reactivity that we don't have. Like if you watch like your dog,
Mhm.
if you have a dog, I know you have too, but
Yeah,
like
I
for
do.
listeners, if you watch your dog, you'll see them do this. Or like if you're in the wild and you see a deer and like you're walking along, right? You're on the path, the deer can't see you, but you step on a like a stick and it cracks and the deer's head pops up and they're looking around and they're tracking to see if they're safe and their pupils are going to dilate and their blood is going to rush to their extremities so that they're primed to run for safety if they need to, right?
Mhm.
Like their bodies are priming them and our bodies do the same thing. And then
Right.
once they realize like, oh, I'm not in danger, I'm safe, then their pupils will undilate, their blood flow will resume, their digestion tract will turn back on. And what will happen is you'll see a physical shiver go down their spine like this.
Yeah.
They're physically shaking off the reactivity. Or our bodies don't do that, but something that we do as humans is let's say you're doing a wall sit, right? We've all done a wall sit where you're like sitting in a chair, but the chair isn't under you and your back is against the
Mhm.
wall. Well,
Horrible.
when your body starts to shake, we make
Yeah.
our bodies not shake. We stop the physical movement because
Right.
somewhere along the line we were trained that people shouldn't see our bodies move. Like it's like weakness or vulnerability. But if you were to embrace the shake, your bodies would shake so much more than we realize. And that's so healthy. That is that somatic release. If we were to embrace it and shake a lot, that's the same thing as the shake in the deer. And we would be releasing a lot of reactivity if we were to just embrace it. Same thing if you just stand up and shake your body around, if you
Yeah.
dance in the house, if you notice when you do those things and all of a sudden you're like, why am I crying? Well, it's because you're getting it out. So
That's
it's
what
like,
happened to me when I started doing yoga and
right?
Taosan.
I
I
know.
I would cry every
Kind of in
shavasana
pigeon pose, and you're like, why am I
yeah, like
crying?
a baby. And I remember my teacher would say, "Oh, this is good." I'm like, "What? I'm crying. I'm
It doesn't
crying
feel good.
literally every every class because we're releasing that stuck and stagnant energy, and it's so important. And the hardest thing is mentally when you're low, it's the last thing you want to do. It's the
I
last
know.
thing you want to do is you want to, like you said, that intentional, like
Yeah.
the gesture. And now if people are listening, the gesture is the shoulders are coming in towards each other and you're kind of like a cowering position. You're literally closing your heart, literally. And the last thing you want to do when you're feeling low is open and move. But it is one of the best things to do. It's
Mhm.
just hard. It's so
Yeah.
hard sometimes. And, I was, I've been through a lot of stuff as well. And I wouldn't say I was close to suicide, but I did have the thoughts
Mm.
after I went through a really low place in my life. I understood why people would do it. And I
Right.
knew in that moment, I am not okay. And so I had to reach out to my people. I'm like, listen, I'm not okay.
Mhm.
And so I wanted to just share that because yeah, I do all these things and I'm spiritual, but I'm still human. I'm still having the human experiences and I've gone through really dark and hard things. And I'm sharing this because if you are going through a hard and dark thing and you do have thoughts like that, that people love you and care about you and you should say something,
Yeah.
and I checked myself because I was like, I can't see a way out. And that was the first time I've ever really felt that low. So
Mhm.
I knew I had to share it with somebody that, was going to hold the space. And they did. My community rallied, my family rallied, and
And
people will rally for you.
yeah, and thank God you did share it, like we are both so lucky that we have nurtured our communities and we have such strong communities that if we need them, we would have people on our doorsteps sleeping in our beds with us, taking care of us if we needed that. And we are
Putting their
so,
arm in a toilet.
oh my God, yes. But not the
I
thing
have
is
not
not
talked to
every
her in years. I hope
I
she is
know. I
well.
hope she is too. I haven't talked to Elena in so long. But the thing is, not everybody has that. And so there are things like a suicide hotline, which is 988, that people can call at any point if they ever need support. And that is so important. Like it's hotlines like that exist because like it is widely known that everyone deserves support and help, regardless of whether our community is the people that we have at the other end of our phone line,
It's
our friends or
111
not.
right now. It's angel numbers 111 as you're
Oh,
sharing this. Yeah,
yeah,
I there is hope. And
it is.
yeah, I don't know. I've never shared that so vulnerably on the podcast like that, where I literally had the
Yeah.
thoughts of it. Like I'm not immune to pain. We're none of
Course.
us are.
And I think that it's like
It's
it
not
is
weak, it's strong when you share it. When you share how you feel, it's strong. It's
it
courageous.
is. You just took the words right out of my mouth. It is
Oh,
extremely vulnerable to share that. And we think of vulnerability as weakness, but I see it as the highest form of strength to share, not even necessarily our heart, but like our guts, like the thing that terrifies us to say out loud. And you say it with like a shaky voice, and it's like taking your breath away, and you say it anyway. And then you see people come towards you when you say it.
yeah.
Like, how
Yeah.
powerful is that?
It's so powerful. And I think it's like part of our collective learning experience as human beings here is uncovering the things that aren't us or going back to a remembering of what we really are and what we're about. And this has been such a powerful, powerful, beautiful conversation. And I'm just so grateful. I'm so grateful for you. Really. That's simply.
You,
And
sister.
thank you for sharing the resources for people and about the grief group. So if you wanted to, oh, I always ask people at the end if they have anything else that you feel inclined to share, and also the ways that people can connect with you. So all the things that you want to share
Yeah.
as we
So
wrap
I was
up.
sure. I would say if you want to connect with a good grief group, so right now this is just a local thing to Baltimore, Maryland, but you can find us in on Facebook. The group is called Good Grief Group. And you can find us on Facebook. If you want to follow me, my Instagram handle is oddly enough, it's an underscore chestnuts roasting. Joke is I was born on Christmas. My name is Jess Knott. Chestnuts roasting is a Christmas song. Or you can friend me on Facebook using my full name, Jessica Knott.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. Is there anything else that you want to share with the people?
No, just that you're all loved and that there's community out there for you.
Love it.
And I love you.
I love you too. Well, thank you so much. And thank you to the listeners. If you're watching us on YouTube, or if you are listening on Spotify, Apple, however you're consuming the podcast, I'm so grateful that you spent your time listening to us. If it resonates, please reach out to Jess. And if you're interested in telling your story, or if you have somebody in mind that you would like to hear on the podcast, please shoot me a message. And other than that, I'm wishing you all a very beautiful week. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Bye.